Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, December 16th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and pledge of allegiance.
We ask that as we go into this silent meditation and prayer, that we remember those in our community, locally and globally, that are less fortunate than we are. Remember those who've lost loved ones in our community since the last time we were in these chambers. Every life is important. We did lose a great staff member and person, a part of the economic development team in the city of Erie since we were here last, Melanie Johnson. So we send our light and our prayers and our thoughts to her family, as well as I'd like to say a statesman and an educator and just an all-around cool guy. Phil Fatika is no longer with us physically. So let's remember those families and every other family, because every life is valuable. But those are the ones that we know that are public individuals. So also, finally, we ask our God and Creator to give us the wisdom and give us the proper information to make the best decisions for the citizens of the city of Erie.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from the meeting of December 2nd, 2015, and bills for payment on December 18th and 25th, 2015, and January 1st, 2016. Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. We have two presentations. And the first presentation I'd like to personally make to our fellow councilwoman, Jessica Kunso. Jessica, if you could stand for a second here. I have a plaque for you from all of council here, but I just want to personally say I've learned a lot from you. You've been a great servant of the city. You've done some great things. I know you're going to continue to do great work for the city, work for the COG. So we just want to thank you all for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
If you want to give a speech, you give it later if you want. But again, thank you so much, Jessica. We also have another presentation. Councilman Mursky would like to make a presentation also.
Councilman Kwiatkowski's here with me. Councilman Kwiatkowski's here with me, and we'd like to call up Ms. Morgan Warzyniak. How are you, Morgan? Thank you for coming up. Today we'd like to give a citation to Morgan Warzyniak. Morgan is the 50th Miss Polonaise in the city of Erie. It was the 51st Polonaise Ball this year. And for those of you who don't know about Miss Polonaise, it's not just a beauty pageant. The girls that are in the Miss Polonaise contest, they are girls of scholarship, they're girls of leadership, and they're girls of well-roundedness. And we're very proud of you, Morgan, for all the stuff that you've done. She's a National Honor Society, Dollars for Scholars at Mercier's Prep, and she's very involved in her parish at St. James. And on behalf of Councilman Kwiatkowski and I, we'd like to issue you this citation for all of your good work, and we wish you continued success during your reign.
Thank you.
Morgan, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity today. These past few months have been great, and I look forward to the rest of my reign. And it's such an honor to be able to represent all of Erie's Polonia, and I hope to be a good role model to all of our youth. So thank you very much.
All right.
And I'd like to say that Morgan will represent the Eastside Federation and the entire Polish community. And I know I've watching her get crowned and watching her go through the process. And this is her second time you ran. Mm-hmm. And she's going to be probably one of our better queens. I can tell you that, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm going to take a picture. Congratulations. Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Okay, we'll continue with the meeting. Again, congratulations. We will now have a request for repository sales. Are there any requests for repository sales here today? Are there any requests for repository sales? And one final question, were there any requests for repository sales? Seeing none, we will go to citizens to be heard. And we do have three citizens who signed up for the to be heard today. Is Mr. Randy Barnes here? He's first on the list for sign up.
Good evening, Council President, Council members, administration, guests, and I do apologize. I remembered that I forgot my red sweater when I was passing the Hero BX plant, so I have the red for the tie counts. But does any council recall a time when there were just two people in the clerk's office? When there were just two people in the clerk's office is when there was a council meeting every week. 50 council meetings a year, approximately. But now we have 24 council meetings a year and 3 people in the clerk's office. And just ask the council members to look across the lobby. What do you see across the lobby in the treasurer's office? Not much going on, is there? When you look across there, the next day meeting, you see about the same. So why doesn't one of the council members step up and be big about it and start reducing the staff in the treasurer's office? It is budget time. That's what you do, isn't it? You make sure the staff is allocated properly to the proper departments. You know, the other day I was approached by someone on the street that said they do view the council meetings, and they told me that maybe I have it all wrong. Maybe if the 4 council people, Witherspoon, Haran, Kunso, Winarski, and Jones, were convinced by former Jim Clem, the clerk, that there was no way that Rose could do the job. Did he have you brainwashed? Did he threaten never to take a phone call from Rose or any of you people unless you paid him $1,000 a month? Did he have you convinced and kind of held you hostage? And the ransom was $1,000 a month for the next 24 months from the day he retired? With his reported largest pension ever given to a city employee he earned after working here 47 years? Do you think in those 47 years Jim Clem ever worried about where the unemployment office was? So his reward after working 47 years and not training the incoming person in his office was to reward him with $1,000 a month of the taxpayers' money. $24,000. If an average home in Erie is $100,000, that's several of those homeowners paid taxes this year just to have Jim Clem come down and call Perillo Enterprises, tell them come and get the microfiche. Isn't that right, Council people Witherspoon, Councilperson Winarski, Jones, and Haran Kunso? Am I wrong? Am I saying something that's out of line here? When you take the taxpayers' money and you give it to your friend because he's held you ransom because he doesn't want to train the incoming clerk? That's how we reward people after 47 years that won't train the incoming person? I hope that every office in this city hall has the next person in line trained, because we never know, as we saw this week, when a person could just die instantly, like Councilperson Fatika did. I hope that every office in this city hall has the next in line trained to do that job. Because council's own staff did not have that done. Right under your nose, 10 feet from where you sit, you let Mr. Clem go on for 47 years and not train anyone in his office. Then you reward him. Who were those 4 council people? Witherspoon, Kunso, Winarski, and Jones. Rewarded this man. He didn't do his job. He didn't train the next clerk coming in. Or was it just the fact she knew how to do it, but that was an excuse to give him some extra money? You had that slush fund of, what, $15,000 for professional services? Now you only got 3 because when you want to go out and challenge the mayor on the dog vote? Oh, that's right. That was retired Mr. Clem that advised council, well, you can reject any contract you want. That was his professional legal opinion, because after 47 years and earning the largest pension, and then getting 4 council people to give him an extra $1,000 a month for 24 months, walks on water. Forget what the solicitor's office said, the trained lawyers, what they advised council. We went by what Mr. Clem said. That's how council voted. Many years he made more than the mayor did. So obviously he knew more than the mayor does, right? So we follow Mr. Clem's advice and vote on the dogs. And what did we read recently? No big deal. Not a problem. So go ahead and you've taken $24,000, take some more money, go out and hire some legal staff in Philadelphia to challenge the mayor. That's what we need done by council. Because there's not enough to do in this city, is there? Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Amy Compertory.
May it please the council, may this be a part of the public record. I would first like to say thank you to Mrs. Haran Kunso for her many years of service to City Council. She will be missed in these chambers. I am here to report about the Downtown Neighborhood Association, which will be the name of the newest neighborhood watch once we find a meeting place for it. I looked into First Niagara Bank. They wanted a $3 million insurance policy in order to use that room. I contacted Dave Dieter and John Villa, and they agreed that location is now off the list. I looked into the first floor of the Hands building under the recommendation of Douglas Mitchell and left a few messages. They have not returned my phone calls. Lower Eaton's place is too small. If the neighborhood watch grows at the rate, I believe it will. We are looking into GCAC, but I have not heard anything from them. I will be pursuing these contacts that have not been updated. We are looking to partner with Gannon University and make use of the criminal justice, social work, and mental health counseling students, as their skill set could greatly help the neighborhood watch and give them experience that they are seeking. It may also improve Gannon, as students will be leading by example. I have had meetings with John Butchna, Chuck Peters of Altair Property Management, Mike Tan, and Megan Cousins of EMTA. I have had several discussions with the district attorney, Jack Denary, who proposed a most interesting idea that you ought to hear. Jack had mentioned creating a new ordinance or amending the current ordinance to include Bangoni Council chambers for the use of neighborhood watches in addition to its current usage. The district attorney and I agreed that neighborhood watch groups are the grassroots progression into the actual government and police spectrums. He is an advocate for this location, as you know. I would like council's assistance with your law library where I can find and dissect these ordinances. My graduate work, bachelor's and associate in criminal justice, as well as my experiences in writing briefs, would make me an ideal candidate for this. I would also ask council for the ordinances regarding EMTA and its authority, composition, and structure. To make sure the E continues to serve our community, I need to be able to look at those ordinances. Therefore, I ask for complete access to whatever I need regarding them. I have submitted to you in your mailboxes a flyer in regards to the Downtown Neighborhood Watch. On behalf of the community, please distribute these accordingly. While we are going through the technicalities of location with the Downtown Neighborhood Association, I encourage citizens to step forward in their community and their buildings and homes, and to report the criminal activity that you see, no matter how small it is or it may be. Laws exist for a reason. If we do not change our moral outlook as a community, Erie may die from a lack of moral compass. With no moral compass, there is no reason to obey laws. Give our Erie community the best gift this Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. Give our community your participation. Give our community a better you. Let's do better. When we know better, we do better, and we ought to do better. It is a great disrespect to our community when we know better and, in spite of everything, fail to do what is right. It won't be so much by those who actually fail to do right by the law that will hurt us. It is those who know right by the law and fail to do any action about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last person signed up for the Citizens Be Heard was Miss Frida Tepler.
My name is Freda Tepfer. I'm a homeowner, a taxpayer in the city of Erie. I have a master's in adult education. I'm a certified orientation and mobility specialist. And for 9 years, I had no car except for using it for work. And so for the first 3 years that I lived in this town, I had no car. So I consider myself very much a pedestrian. In my 25 years working in the environmental professions, I participated in over 100 interdisciplinary teams, developing alternatives, analyzing alternatives, writing environmental documents, and coming to sound decisions. I was a member of the Arlington, Washington City Council for 3 years, the Snohomish Watershed Management Council, and facilitated their Citizen Advisory Committee meetings, and for 4 years was a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee of Snohomish County Community Transit in Washington State. So I feel very well equipped to read, analyze, and comment upon the process that occurred in relation to the McBride Viaduct. In the process of preparing the document, 9 alternatives were initially evaluated. Those 9 were narrowed down to 3 for further analyses. Not one of the 9 alternatives considered restoring and maintaining the viaduct in its current use as a pedestrian-only bridge. An alternative considered full restoration of the bridge for vehicular and pedestrian use, but was eliminated due to cost. One alternative considered demolition of the viaduct and construction of new vehicle and pedestrian bridge in the current location. Another alternative mentioned, but not further considered, demolishing the viaduct and construction of a new pedestrian-only bridge. The study acknowledged that the viaduct was currently used by pedestrians and that many individuals were concerned with safety issues, particularly in winter, of pedestrian travel on the Bayfront Connector sidewalk instead of the viaduct. The 3 alternatives further considered were part of the environmental justice analysis. However, the pedestrian-only restored viaduct alternative was not. All of the comparisons of pedestrian facilities between the viaduct and the Bayfront Connector compared the viaduct-designated sidewalk to the Bayfront Connector sidewalk. In fact, nearly all pedestrians on the viaduct use the 22-foot wide former roadway rather than the 5-foot wide pedestrian sidewalk. The document states that there are no ADA facilities on the viaduct, but there are on the Bayfront Connector sidewalk. While that is true for the viaduct sidewalk, numerous people who use wheelchairs travel regularly on the viaduct using the roadway, which is on grade. Therefore, the lack of ADA facility on the viaduct is irrelevant. The alternative analysis report compared the viaduct-defined pedestrian walkway to the connector walkway. They did not describe the actual situation of using the entire width for walking. The purpose and need report stated Pedestrians continue to utilize the viaduct as a means to access the lower and central areas of Erie's east side, mainly due to missing links within the project area. In actuality, the reason that pedestrians continue to use the viaduct is that it is the preferred route because it is shorter, it is safer because it is separated from road debris, and it is not blocked by plowed snow. It is easier to walk in groups, and it is easier for people who use wheelchairs. The study identified in relation to pedestrians this need. Missing links in pedestrian and cyclist connectivity exist within the surrounding vicinity. These were identified as a north-south route and an east-west route. There is no question that an appropriate east-west route is lacking. The viaduct is and should continue to remain a north-south pedestrian route. The final statement of the purpose and needs says that the viaduct project will be designed to address each identified project need and provide a means for safe, efficient, and feasible access and connectivity to the lower and central east side neighborhoods and businesses within the city of Erie. Since my time is expiring, I will just urge you not to spend any more money allotted for this project on a study to demolish the viaduct rather that to use that money to restore and retain the viaduct in its present condition and use as the main pedestrian route north and south in the area.
Richard Wagner, 42nd State. And for all the problems the city has, there should be this many people in the audience every time you have a meeting, because we got problems. One of them is, I got my water bill for December and my sewer bill. If you can't get the due date changed, then how can I trust you with anything involved with running this city? That seems awfully simple to me, to get that spread out a little bit. I might be able to afford it, but how about these families at Christmas time who might not be able to buy a Christmas present or something? It's terrible. That's a simple thing and you can't get it done. Give me a break. The bridge, I really don't have a comment about it, other than that I used it for 33 years. Probably fed myself at Barney's and Pio's for part of those 33 years. And you really got to think about what you're doing to the east side. You're changing it, you're hurting it, you're not helping it one bit. None of you. But that's not why I'm here. The president of council is trying a new approach. He's not willing to rubber stamp the mayor's budget, but instead he realizes that hidden in the budget are some monies that, for lack of a better word, could be called slush. The mayor called this political grandstanding. I look at it a different way. The political grandstanding comes when a budget is presented by the mayor around Thanksgiving and is digested and dissected for a couple of weeks by council during interviews with heads of departments, which result in the customary yes vote. I think the mayor could have got a yes vote the day the budget is handed to you people in council. The political grandstanding has taken place when council pretends to search for improvements to the budget, when in reality, there's nothing they can do. Council has to remember that there are no social service departments located in City Hall. The task has been delegated to our county government. If there are savings to be found in the mayor's budget and they are implemented, I strongly suggest that none of the monies that are saved go to a jobs program. Let the county and all of their social service offices deal with that issue. If City Council wants to pursue a jobs program, go to the regional chamber and insist that they query their membership for summer jobs. I think the regional chamber could develop an interesting program with many opportunities. If a remedy for the yearly increase in the operations of the city is to be found, Council should start right now to pursue efficiencies. Not for 2016, it's too late. But start to look at what can be changed for 2017 during the upcoming year. How many transactions take place in the treasurer's office?
Set goals for economic development. Insist that the recipients of tax money have a realistic mission that provides a return on our investment. And implement your findings. I think we would all be surprised at the savings. A past mayor called it low-hanging fruit. As a council, I hope you give resolve necessary to develop a neighborhood watch program for the downtown corridor. As a casual observer, I witnessed the lack of due diligence that was necessary to bring East 38th Street between Pine Avenue and East Avenue back into compliance with your own zoning rules. Don't let this happen to this new group. I see on the agenda tonight 2 appointments, one by Mr. Kwiatkowski and the other by Mr. Brennan. I have a question for Mr. Brennan. Isn't there one qualified person in this entire city that could have or should have been appointed to the airport authority? Why did you have to reach out to Mill Creek for your appointment? I'm sure the county executive and county council won't be looking for any of their appointments coming from the city. Secondly, it's time for some candor from our council. It's come to my attention that besides a position on council, we have a councilman who also serves on another very important board for our city. It's a decision-making position accompanied with a salary. There has to be a separation of powers. We're allowing the fox to watch the hen house, and we got to get off our hands. Thank you.
Next is to be heard.
Not me.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank Jessica Haran-Kunso for her many years of service. Second, I'd like to thank Dave Brennan for working on the budget and including funds to help our community by helping our youth find summer jobs. I believe that young men with too much time on their hands, no access to jobs, yet access to guns, poses a serious threat to our community. Not all teens have family and friends with connections. We must support a summer jobs program for these teens. And lastly, my husband and I fully support keeping the McBride Viaduct and making it a pedestrian walkway. We must show the citizens of the East Side that they are valuable, that from what I have seen on a bridge they did in New York City and some other drawings, that bridge could be made beautiful for a pedestrian walkway. And what that would add to the East Side. And also safety. When this first came up, I didn't really support this. I thought, well, they have that walkway on the new highway. But then I saw it, and it's a danger to our children. And we need to invest in our children. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robin K. Grack. I live on East 9th Street between the Bayfront Connector and East Avenue. I would have worn red, but it's not my color. I lived on 9th Street about a year and a half, but both my father's parents and my mother's parents, my grandparents, lived on that block for more than half a century, all of them second-generation Polish and German immigrants. I grew up on East 7th Street between Ash and Wallace Streets. I spent my childhood in the area between Parade Streets and East Avenue. It pains me greatly to see the downtrodden condition of my childhood stomping grounds, but I'm not here to complain. I'm here to support I'm here in support of maintaining the McBride Viaduct as a pedestrian walkway. In June, when my car expired, I committed to riding the bus and walking for 1 year. I have my reasons, saving the $7,000 I would have spent to lease or buy and maintain a vehicle, walking the walk when it comes to being kind to our environment, staying healthy, and finally just stepping outside of my comfort zone. I have learned a lot in my first 6 months without a car, First, that Erie has quite a way to go to become pedestrian-friendly. And second, that I don't have to sit around and wait for this to happen. I can rally my fellow citizens and help to move the process along. I only have two main points to make, really. One, that we need to preserve the McBride Viaduct as a pedestrian walkway. And like Cindy, at first I was not on board with that idea, but actually having to walk places and walking the Bayfront Connector, the pathways are great for bicycle travel. They're not so great for walking. The decibel level from the traffic is at the level that is damaging to one's hearing, and the cars travel at very frightening speeds. My second and most important point is that the viaduct is a major artery. East Avenue is the main street of our neighborhood. It goes all the way down to our beautiful Lake Erie, a precious resource that other cities and states covet. If we are ever to revitalize the Lower East Side area, we need to keep that artery open. I have seen the architect's plans for the pedestrian walkway, and I think that it will be a wonderful launch point for revitalizing the East Avenue area. I am in the planning stages of forming a revitalization task force to rehabilitate the neighborhood surrounding the McBride Viaduct and East Avenue. I am currently putting together a steering committee with the intent to form a task force similar to BEST, which is the Bayfront East Side Task Force, and the yet-to-be-named task force working to revitalize the Northwest Bayfront area. The task force will be working with established organizations, businesses, citizen groups, and hopefully government. I ask that you at least delay any demolition plans until it can be determined if designated demolition funds can be used to convert the viaduct to a safe pedestrian walkway. For anyone who is interested in participating in the steering committee that I am currently assembling, you can contact me on LinkedIn or Facebook. Just search for Robin K. Grack. For those who belong to the Hess Avenue, East Avenue Neighborhood Watch, I will be doing an informational presentation at the January meeting. Thank you very much.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Bizzaro. I lived in Erie all my lifetime. I lived in East Avenue, Hess area for 40 years. I own two places on East Avenue, and I own a house on the 1100 block of East 11th Street. The one thing, I'm part of the Neighborhood Watch area, the East Avenue Hess area. The one big thing I have over most of you, probably, maybe even all of you, I toured the United States 3 times. Okay? Far too many times we have leaders and deciders that make the wrong decisions. They say yes to bad projects and no to projects that are needed. Okay? I have some examples. An example that everyone said yes to, but it is a bad project, are the curb bump outs on 12th Street. I've been to San Francisco a half a dozen times. There's only in the financial district of San Francisco you will find them bump outs. Okay? Another one is the inlet port that everyone seemed to say it was a bad idea. This is going to be one of the reasons GE will leave this area. And people, let me tell you, I've been to Dallas, I've been to Las Vegas, I've been to Los Angeles, I've been up to North Dakota on Highway 2, which is desolate area, okay? But wherever these ports are, okay, there is a lot of work, people are working, and there's a good cash flow in the area. You know, we chopped our own foot off by not putting that port in. Okay, down to money for the demolition of this bridge. You have $2.3 million on the table. that was a 2012 projected price. We're in 2015. I would say that price is up to about $3.1 million right now. That is before you tear down the piers of the McBride Dry Dock. In this area, it has been a junkyard since the early 1930s, and that whole ground and everything right now is capped. You go to tear them piers down, you're going to go $7.5 million. You have to remediate all that ground. You got to take all that dirt out, bring new dirt back in. Then you have to deal with the EPA even more than you really want to. Okay? Let's go to the safety point of this, where everyone's walking. After you run short of money, you are going to come to the citizens of Erie, and the citizens' tax bill is going to spike upward. Okay. A safety point here, we have some severe winters, and they're sudden. They could be 65 one day, and you'd have 2 foot of snow the next day. Okay? This area where people want the kids to walk, okay, it's not maintained properly. Come wintertime, there's 4 feet of ice and snow there. Okay? If the city wants a project, it won't cost you a dime. Okay? Fix the grounds on all the telephone poles that the metal thieves have taken to the junkyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is to be heard.
I'm short. Good evening. And Ms. Horan-Kunso, thank you very much for your service. My name is Diana Ames. Excuse me. I run the Pennsylvania Coalition in Homelessness, and I also work at the Mental Health Association here in Erie. I'm going to make this short, sweet, and right to the point. You know all the reasons why you should keep the McBride Viaduct, and it should be a walkway. I know that it needs some things, but I really believe walking is good for your health. It is on the east side. It will certainly add to the east side. I think it's a great idea. Please give it some serious consideration and move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is to be heard.
Good evening. I'm Bill Lacey, and I apologize. I went to my doctor's and caught a cold. As Council will recall, the Kimball report concluded that 2 options, restoring the viaduct or creating another entrance to the Bayfront Highway, met the project's criteria. The viaduct's superior, however, in several ways, notably pedestrian safety and more rapid response time in emergency situations. However, the difference in cost was so great that in an either-or situation, the nod went to the additional access to the Bayfront connector. However, as a result of the visionary work of the Civitas Group, pursuing another solution, and extensive research into the means and the costs, we now have a both-and proposition. That is, the viaduct, the costs of stabilizing the viaduct and preserving it for foot and bike traffic are estimated as no greater than and most likely lower than the cost of its demolishment. So we have a viaduct which we can retain not only for the safety of children, who, by the way, in the alternate proposal, consider not only the safety but the general well-being and mental state of children when they arrive at morning classes After a likely hair-raising trip along the busy Bayfront connector, heart in mouth and adrenaline pounding. That was one of the arguments Father McBride made for the original viaduct, safety, but also the state of mind of children who were trying to get over a literal jungle of railroad tracks at that time. But the Civitas Group offers us something more than that. The transformation of the viaduct as a venue for recreational activity, enhanced aesthetic views of the city's historic industrial past, and an integration with the other work that's being done for the revitalization of the East Side. Finally, it will remain as an artifact which celebrates the memory of a great priest who was important to the city's history, and of a major civic achievement, an enlightened collaboration between officials of city, county, and state government to bring a vision into being. I was there at 7 years old as a second grader when it was dedicated, and it's just emblazoned in my memory, including the smoke of Father McBride's cigar. Now, something that hasn't been addressed is that many forward-looking cities of the world are rescuing structures which are immersed in depressed areas but important to their history. This in Sweden, in Rome, in Paris, in cities in Boston, where I lived so long. And by transforming the use of these structures to social and civic engagement, they've been able to preserve that tradition while elevating the quality of daily life there and replacing blight with lively, creative environment. In most cases, these become hip places. In addition, then, of course, there follows some economic revitalization. I think the plans of Civitas suggest that the same kind of thing might happen in Erie. This plan has the potential to take Erie a step toward resetting the city's image of itself and its possibilities, to enrich the quality of life on the east side, to stimulate the economy of that languishing section of the city, for which I also have great sentiment, having grown up there and found that the introduction to everything, my career, my subsequent life. The education, the spiritual foundation, the shepherding of care of Father McBride. He never wanted to be called Monsignor. He'd say, "Please, Father." He was a real shepherd. He even arranged for doctors to come in, for heaven's sakes, who would donate time on weekends for the poor of the parish, so they got some medical help. Very enlightened. Well, may I finally say, please don't let this opportunity slip into that burgeoning file of opportunities missed because of lack of imagination, timidity, or just plain small-mindedness. We have a city that has great potential. Let's share some of it with the East Side.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Dollard, and I'm a recent Gannett University graduate. And part of my senior capstone course in business policy was to come up with a business proposal to keep or discontinue the McBride Viaduct for the city of Erie. And at first, I really didn't understand all the nuances of, what that viaduct meant to the Lower East Side of Erie. So at first, I was just like, I feel they can just discontinue it and go on about whatever plans that the city had. But then once I had a bunch of meetings with people who were heavily involved in saving the McBride Viaduct, I started to see the social responsibility aspect of it. And prior to the meeting starting, I heard Councilman Jones saying that every life is valuable. And I was applying that to, my thoughts on, having the McBride Viaduct and what it means to, children getting to school, or adults even taking their children to school or getting to work, or using it, for different connecting points to other sides of the city. And I feel as though, I don't know you guys' responsibility by definition, but I feel as though you have a responsibility to improve, improve different parts of Erie, especially the east side. I've only lived here 3 years because I was a transfer college student, but I've been on the east side, and it could use a spark to revitalize itself. And coming from Wilmington, Delaware, where I'm from originally, I grew up in an area much similar to the east side of Erie. And what I can tell you is we had a similar situation where a bridge needed to be rehabilitated, and they were thinking about discontinuing it. And it took strong community involvement, and it took a bunch of years to get done, but eventually the bridge was restored. And from that bridge being restored, different businesses invested in the area, and condos, grocery stores, museums, gas stations, and different type of businesses, came to the area because, the city invested in the area, and most of the jobs that, were available went to those who were in the poverty-stricken areas. So it boosted, the morale of the people, and, crime rates went down and things like that. And I'm seeing a similar projection with the McBride Viaduct. And like many other speakers have said, the Bayfront Connector, I've driven on the Bayfront Connector, and sometimes I go pretty fast. So I know, so I can relate to, when people saying that it's unsafe and it's not really somewhere I would want, if I had children, I would want them to walk. And just what discontinuing the McBride Viaduct would do to the east side, I don't think it's worth it. And I feel as though if you guys have a plan to better the entire city of Erie going forward, I feel as though you can't leave out the east side, because regardless of you guys' plans or what you want to do to improve the city, the east side is always going to be a part of the city. And you have to think about those, like Mr. Jones said earlier, every life is valuable. And like Ms. Jessica said, she's done great work. What I see this as an opportunity for you to continue that legacy, and for you to make your statement true by not discontinuing the McBride Viaduct, and instead looking at the different proposals to renovate it and keep it going. That's all I have for today.
Next is Abir.
How you doing? I'm DeJuan Simmons. I'm not here to talk about the East Ave thing or none of that. I'm here to talk about my well-being.
Can we have your address? I'm sorry.
2619 German Street. Thank you. I was in a city accident on November 6th. My truck flipped over. One of the guys got fired for a dirty urine. I've been off work now for about a month and a half from both of my jobs. The city of Erie is paying my medical bills, but they're not giving me no income. Now, we up here talking about all lives matter in y'all city council. I'm part of this city. I worked 8 months hard for y'all, picking up everybody's trash around here, if you live in the city. So all I'm saying is I need y'all to look into this, because Christmas is coming up. Thanksgiving was around the corner. I got 4 kids. Do you know how it feels that you can't support your kids? No, I get y'all. I bet y'all don't, because everybody up there got a job. I shouldn't have to call a lawyer to go after my job for something that wasn't my fault. My friend died 2 weeks before my accident on that truck. When is it enough is enough with these drivers out here? When y'all gonna do something about public works? We're up here talking about everything going on with the city, but we ain't talking about these lives that's getting hurt on these jobs for the city. I'm starting to get real frustrated at this, because I'm putting it in God's hands. And when you start not to believe in God's hands, something is wrong. My mental capacity is wrong. I can't sleep. I'm paranoid. Just now started walking good. Just now getting off a concussion. What's up? I'm serious. You know, I talked to my pastor. I talked to Mr. Mel Weatherspoon. They're giving me their ear. You know what I mean? But I know they just two people. They can't do too much. But I literally work for y'all, man. And y'all treat me like this? Picking up garbage is a hard job, you know that. And do you know how these folks get crazy with compost season? 12 cans, 13 bags of leaves. You, like they say, the east side, you go to the east side, East 7th Street, takes about 8 hours to pick up their garbage because everybody got a lot of garbage out there. I know I'm a garbage man, but don't treat me like garbage. That's all I got to say, man.
Thank you. Next citizen.
Hi, I'm Nancy Wagner. No relation to Richard Wagner, but I certainly do agree with him about the breaking apart the sewer and garbage costs. I'm here to speak about not just the McBride Viaduct. I'm here to let you know that I've been part of a similar project that has worked. And not only worked, it has turned a portion of Ohio into a state-mentioned area for tourism. A couple of years back, I had the great privilege and a lot of fun, too, being in Marietta, Ohio. Marietta is at the confluence of the Ohio and the Muskingum Rivers, and the side of Marietta, I need to say this delicately, but the side of Marietta that was on the Muskingum, or across the Muskingum side, is formerly a very blighted neighborhood. It was the location of the original rail yard of Marietta, and it was somehow traditionally, it just seems that, you know, wherever there's a rail yard, there's kind of, you know, not as great of a an area. At any rate, there's an old railroad bridge there called the Historic Harmer Bridge, and that bridge was when it was given up by the railroad, it was going to be torn down. The city wanted it to be torn down. The Marietta area, in case some of you are not familiar with it, is quite similar to Meadville. In fact, it really reminded me of Meadville when I was working down there. Just the way the rivers are and the kind of a small town atmosphere. At any rate, the city wanted to tear down this railroad bridge. The railroad bridge and the Putnam Street Bridge, which carries Ohio Route 7, are about the same distance apart as the McBride Viaduct and the Bayfront Connector. Well, anyways, enough people got interested. They saved the railroad bridge. The area on the blighted side, which was home of several brothels, a number of bars, people throwing garbage on the properties all over the place, broken down, battered homes. Now here it is 30 years later, after this group has formed the coalition to upgrade the neighborhood. All volunteers, all residents, all business people. And it's turned into a beautiful area. As I said, the state of Ohio has it on their tourist guide for people to come and patronize the businesses there. Folks have started cleaning up their houses. They paint. When I was there, I actually kind of helped to instigate the neighborhood barbecue, the first one ever. And people were glad to come together and just say, hey, this is cool. I'm so glad to be part of this. Which leads me to the next phase of what I was going to talk about. I grew up near the East 7th and Reed. I went to East High School, graduated in 1974. I taught for 5 years at the former GCAC Community Charter School, which is now the Benjamin Wiley Charter School. my heart, a lot of it is still in that neighborhood, as are many of my classmates from East High class of 74. And when I've posted things on my Facebook about the McBride Viaduct, I got all kinds of responses from my classmates like, wow, I remember walking that bridge, walking Downing Avenue was really crappy, So there have been some studies, and Downing Avenue, people who have used Downing Avenue to walk north to East High don't find that grade crossing suitable or safe. And the sidewalks and such just don't complement the kind of respect and support I believe that we need to give to our students. And then your other alternative is the Bayfront Connector, which I've driven the Bayfront Connector in that area, and I'll tell you what, I was scared. The speed limit is 35? People were passing me at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, just, and it's pretty taking your life in your hands, and I've understood that it's not plowed properly and such in the winter. So I'm asking that someone would please just at least rethink. I've got lots of things to share if you want to ask me further questions, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hello.
Citizen?
First, I'd like to say thank you, Jessica, for your many years of service. I have some big shoes to fill. I only hope I can do just the greatest job as you did, but I definitely will try. I come before you because, almost 6 years ago, I lost my son to violence. And for the past 5.5 years, I had a one-track mind. I was worried about the violence. And now that we didn't have so many community members come to the table, and it's a lot of us working on that issue, now I can focus on the viaduct. When they first started talking about the viaduct, I wasn't at the table because I was focused on the violence. But now that we have other people that's helping out with the violence, I would like to focus on the viaduct. And my main focus is, I go to East High School every day to pick up the kids in my mentoring program. And I see these kids walk over that bridge every day. As a youth, I graduated in 1985 from East High School. I walked over that bridge. I lived in public housing. And that is an asset to the east side. I think about the danger of these kids getting on the bayfront and walking, because these kids horseplay. I watch them. When I'm going to the Booker T, I watch them. They up running in the street, not even paying attention. Just imagine them doing that on the bayfront. We really have to take this into consideration. It took us a long time to get here. Just to put it off for a little while longer won't hurt. As a future coming city council member, I think we need to do a little bit more research. We need to go with what's cost effective for our community. The east side, we really need to do some uplifting. We need to motivate the people who live on the east side, and I think the way to do that is by trying to save the viaduct. Because the people on the east side, they can be a part of this. They can be a part of revitalizing the east side of town. So with that, I say, please, let's take a little more time. A little more time won't hurt, so we can do our research and see what's cost effective for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shaquana Feliciano. I live on 10th and Ash. This thing about the bridge, we call it the East Ave Bridge. I used to go to East, and that's the bridge I took all the time. It was the quickest way to, get from A to B. When I first came here to the States, I'm originally from the Virgin Islands. When I first came here to the States, that was a bridge we took everywhere. To our in-laws, Walmart, friend house, school. That was the bridge. Everybody knew the bridge. So I think I don't like that it's being taken down. I also think that making it a walkway for people would be like really awesome, and we could have youth come and bring it back up in the summer. I'm an artist. I love everything about art, and I know a lot of kids will like it too. If in the summer coming up, we'd take a bunch of them and like decorate the whole thing with like graffiti and plants and like safety stuff. I think it would be good for the youth, something for them to do in the summer, so we won't be bored and stuff. I just think it's a good idea. And don't bring it down. It's a cool bridge.
Thank you. Next citizen to be heard.
Hi, my name is Brad Ford, 1039 West 24th. There's two reasons why I came here today. One was to support that we do not tear down the viaduct at this time. Mainly I'm asking is that we hold off. I've been in a couple council meetings, and the one thing that I've heard is you guys always hear about problems, and you want answers, or you want a solution. So that's kind of why we're here today, is we think we have a solution to this. We know it's part about money, part of it's about maybe ideas, maybe it's concepts or thoughts. Well, we think we have ideas, concepts, and thoughts, and we can probably maybe even find the money. So we would like to hold it off and have this conversation. The reason being is I was all for getting torn down. When I had my friends talk about it, I thought it was insane. I thought it was crazy. Tear down the old, bring up the new. Then they weren't going to put up anything new. They were just going to tear it down. All right, red flag number one. Then after that, I'm a father. And as a businessman and an artist, I always look at risk. And it's really risky when children have to walk across that highway. I mean, just put these words together to you. Highway, children walking. They don't make sense. So unless there's an option, this is the option. And as from a businessman, when I looked at some of the concerns of environmental, which I don't believe have been fully thought of, that when it gets torn out, it's a foundry down there. We have no idea what's going to be torn up. From a business standpoint, the jobs are going to be outsourced. It won't be local companies tearing that down. Us, maybe recycling the metal. Those thoughts weren't put in there. I have a red flag about that. I mean, what, do we get to sweep it up? Is that the jobs that we're going to provide for our people here? And then from an artist, I see a blank canvas. I see something that can be really great. And the opportunity is there. And I think that's the one thing that Erie is lacking, is opportunity in some areas. That or the light of opportunity. And I like this to be one of those things. So part of me being here is to ask you guys to not tear it down yet. Let's communicate. Because I know right now we're really not talking. You guys are listening. And I appreciate that. And you have, Mr. President, has sent us some emails, information, and I really appreciate you talking about the issues with us. Because there's nothing worse than when the voices are not being heard. But I think the voices have to be two ways. So we open to have conversations with you. We're not going to yell at you. We're not going to get mad, and we hope we do the same exact thing. We have some ideas, and we want you to listen to them. Number two, I'm also part of a thing called co-working. Anyone know what co-working is? It's great. So I'm one of the founding members over at Radius, which we're over on the 9th floor. I'm inviting you at any time to come and meet, just to see this idea of a new way of doing business, a new way of sharing ideas. And if you're not familiar with it, come and talk to me. We'll have this conversation. Once again, thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you. Next is to be heard.
Okay, my name's Emily, and I live on 447 Gordon Lane. And I think it's absurd that we're still even discussing this as an actual issue. I don't know much about you council people except for some of the inaction you've been capable of lately, but I do know that Mr. Jones and Mr. Mirsky have young children, and I'm just wondering, like, I'm sure you send them to school. I don't know if you have them walk to school, and I know you can't answer me now, but we can talk after the meeting, and I'm wondering, when is the last time you had your young children walk on the Bayfront Connector at morning rush hour? Has it been recently that they do that? And I'd just like you all to remember the reason why it was built in the first place, and I'd like to challenge you all to think outside the scope of your narrow lives and think about the children that have to get to school in the morning and would have to walk across a busy, scary highway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice crowd. Nice crowd.
I like that.
I have some issues. Of course, you know, when I come up here, I got some. You know, you done spent enough money on that bridge over there to at least have it halfway rebuilt from the ground, I believe. You put a lot of money in there. It's going to take how many millions to tear it down? Quite a few. If it's not but 100,000, that's too much. That bridge ain't in that bad a shape. Yeah, them peoples want that bridge really torn down. They don't even live here. Those peoples down on the east side deserve some consideration. When you take that bridge down, you're cutting the lower east side off. Those peoples need to be give them a little compassion. A little bit won't hurt. We're taxpayers. They're taxpayers. When them foreigners come over here, y'all don't find no problem in giving them our money. Why can't we keep our bridge? That bridge is important. I just don't understand. If it was something Joe wanted, y'all would do it. If you had to stand up on each other's shoulder to do it. So why not do the right thing? Don't let nobody tell you what to do. Use your own mind. If you got any brains up there, use them. But a lot of you have empty heads. You don't think for yourself. You let somebody else think for you. As uneducated as I am, I'm not going to let you think for me. I might not have much up there, but I got a little wisdom. God give me that, and I thank him for it. I thank him for it. I had the shingles. I didn't have much up there before I got them, but the shingles took the other little bit I had away. Them shingles, they're not nothing to play with. But getting back to the bridge, don't tear the bridge down. Don't tear the bridge down. If you count all the money that the different people came in here checking that bridge out, you could have had enough to halfway build that bridge back. But that bridge ain't in that bad a shape. It ain't in that bad a shape. I wish you would listen to some of what we have to say. After all, we're the taxpayers. We're the taxpayers. But you don't listen to the taxpayers. You're listening to Joe and the rest of them. And I don't understand it. You went along with him on those buildings down there. You didn't tax them. And that's quite a bit of money that you let slide through. You should have been taxing them. I got to ask you a question. Is that 10-year tax thing, or is it supposed to be on and on? Can you answer that, Mr. President?
What's the question again? I'm sorry. What program?
Is that you have that 10-year thing? You tax free for 10 years?
LERTA. Yeah, we could talk about the LERTA program later. If you want to get together, we can discuss that.
Well, I mean, I want the people to know what's going on, because we don't have no secrets.
Yes, sir. Can you please speak? We want to hear what you have to say. We could always discuss the other issues later.
Well, y'all don't want to hear what I got to say anyway, but I'm telling you, if you take that bridge out, you're doing the city a disservice. You really are. You just think about when those kids walk on that Bayfront, that highway, they're starting to run out in the streets. What is 1, 2, 3? Some got to get killed before y'all change your mind? Hey, That's a dangerous thing. When they walk across there, you know, kids are kids. And they don't be thinking. A lot of them don't be thinking anyway. Don't tear that bridge down. Let them kids walk across that bridge. Don't tear the bridge down. Please. That'd be one good thing you're doing. If Joe told you to don't tear it down, y'all get together and fight it. I want you to fight it now. I want you to fight it. Somebody from out of town sweating to come here and talking about it's unsafe. It's been up there all these years. That bridge is in a better shape than a lot of bridges I've seen. Don't tear the bridge down. Let us keep the bridge. Let those people down on the Lower East Side have their right of way. Let them have, because them kids will be running across them tracks too. You see, when in the summertime, you see them kids coming across that bridge. If they can't come across there, I don't know. It's unsafe. It's just that it's unsafe for them to be up on that road up there with all that traffic. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next citizen to be heard.
Hello. My name is Cole Shenley. I'm an East Sider.
Give your address, please.
2621 Jackson Avenue.
Thank you.
I've lived in Erie most of my life, and I don't use the McBride Viaduct, but I live in the area. I don't own a car, so I rely on bus and foot transportation in the area near it, though. And I was brought here because of people, other citizens in the area, and they kind of got me to come out. I see that we need to have some kind of way for these kids to get across to school that use this. This highway is not effective. I've been on that highway before. I can't imagine those kids using it as a way to get to school, to East, or to other grade schools in the area. That bridge is a part of our connective tissue in the Lower East Side, and something has to be done. If you don't want to use the bridge, we have to do something so that we aren't using the highway as a form of transportation for kids and other people in the area who don't necessarily have cars. I don't want to take up all of your time, but I just want to throw my support behind this and hope that you guys can do something so that we're not relying on the highway, that we're using some kind of bridge and transforming it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Whaley, 447 Gordon Lane. A couple items. Young lady up here was looking for space for her neighborhood watch group, and she was asking maybe she could use City Hall. Erie Redevelopment Authority has a phalanx of offices you don't charge them a penny for. Her group will probably do more in the next 6 months to help the city of Erie than I see coming out of ERA. I think you should really consider her proposal. Viaduct. I'm totally in support of Viaduct. I've been down here probably 10 times talking about the Viaduct. What I've never heard from council, administration, is a real reason, a real defining reason why it's coming down. Yes, Kimball said there's 3 options, narrowed down from 9. Again, none of them were pedestrian use. We seem like we're in a real rush to get it done. Philadelphia is doing one right now, the Reading Viaduct. And Ed Rendell filmed a video for it. He's in super support of it. They estimated to tear their viaduct down would cost $50 million. The remediation scare, this, that. We think we can tear us down for $1.2 million or whatever the number is today. It changes a lot. There's no way. There's no way. It costs $30,000 to tear an old house down and haul it away. This is a huge project. So I think we're underestimating this number, pretending it's low, and let's get this option going. Number of people here would benefit from it. A lot of these people that won't benefit from it are still for it. They're for the city. They're for things that will help other people. So I do think we're in a rush to get it down. I don't think we've had all the options, and I think you hopefully will look at it a little longer. Now, the other thing that we could look at is the budget. I came down last year and I waved it around and I said, hey, there's 95 pages of inaccuracies. Well, this year it's 99 pages long. You looked at it, one day I saw in the paper you spent an hour at a budget session, a whole hour. I could go through every single page, but I only have 3 minutes left. So here's a couple you might have missed. The Office of Traffic Court. We don't actually have a traffic court anymore, it's been years. But we do have 3 people that sit in an office and collect parking tickets. Monday through Friday till 4:25. You have to pay cash. You can write a check. Why don't we install a kiosk in the lobby and have a website where you can pay your ticket? And it'll all tie in with the parking authority and what they're trying to do with more automated ticket writing and things like that. So you can collect the same amount. You're going to spend $300,000 to collect $900,000 this year. It's the lowest parking ticket revenue in the last 10 years that I can find. So every year our costs go up and the revenue's going down. That's not a good business to be in. Let's get out of that business. Let's put a kiosk out here, have a website, 24 hours a day. I can pay my parking ticket. Maybe I can get an app. 21st century stuff that we could do. The print shop, one of my favorite places in this entire building. And on the budget, it only cost $121,000. That's all we're going to invest this year in the print shop. But hidden back on page 97 of the budget are $61,000 in leases for that office. And I'm wondering why are those hidden back on that page? Why aren't they on this page where it should be under operating supplies? Can't figure it out. Other departments list theirs there, but we're hiding that. So $180,000 to print tax bills. That's the predominant job of that office. We can save a lot of money there. On the viaduct, they might need some help, might need some legal help, putting together a nonprofit maybe to do something. We have 5 lawyers upstairs. We'll spend $633,000 on a solicitor's office. I'm sure one of them, or the executive secretary, or the paralegal, could maybe help these guys form that nonprofit and help with those costs. We took out a bond in 2015 to pay for paving, $8 million bond. We're going to spend $3.6 on paving. And we paid PNC Bank $530,000 in origination fees. 6.25% of the value of the bond we handed over as a fee. So if you've gotten a mortgage, points, you don't pay that much. We're writing out bonds, continually borrowing. We crowed in the paper and on TV. We're going to do almost $5 million of paving this year. 3.6 is borrowed money that we're paying a lot of money for. We borrowed 8, so we're going to pay back 16. And in 20 years, when we're paying that off, the mayor then will probably decide to roll it over and re-extend it. But the roads that it covers now will not be drivable in 20 years. Golf fund. It is an enterprise fund. By law, it has to pay its own bills. It has no insurance is taken out against it. 200 acres, multiple employees, people driving electric carts. Somehow it doesn't pay any insurance. It's hidden in another part of the budget. Please look at the budget further. Please reopen it in January. Please look at some ways to find some way to save some money. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Hi, you know me, Adam Trott, 531 West 6th Street. According to my scorecard so far, we've had 19 people come up to voice their support for the viaduct. I think we're at the point where we've debunked this one myth that it's just Lisa and I that's trying to get this done. Out of those 19, I know of at least 7 that are from the east side. So this also is not a west side idea trying to do something nice for the east side. I will say the converse of that is very encouraging. That means that at least 12 people are not from that area, but they're here to speak up for that area because that area does not have the resources to be here. And that's a great unifying effort on behalf of citizens from one side to the other. I find that very encouraging. I want to touch base on a few more myths that have been circulated lately. One is that the $2.3 million that's on the table waiting to be spent that was given by mainly the Federal Highway Administration for bridges. It was actually a clever tactic to twist it to be part of the Buffalo Road interchange so they could use federal highway money that way for demolition instead of fixing or building new ones. Well, it was suggested that we only have 1.2 that can flip over because the rest of it is for soft costs, the sidewalk along the south side of 12th Street, which is really a physical impossibility, and the 2 cul-de-sacs that would be built in the vacancy of the viaduct. Well, the sidewalk on 12th Street and the 2 cul-de-sacs, the need for that go away when we keep the viaduct. So the entire 2.3 is able to be reallocated for the repair. The next thing is there's a sense of urgency because we've noticed how City Hall administration has been accelerating the process to get this issue out of here. And we anticipate, because of what's been said publicly, that some kind of contract that's been negotiated between the city engineer's office and their consultant that they've been negotiating with for, I think, 5 or 6 weeks at least, was due here early December. So we're trying to make clear why approving that contract is a catastrophe and a big mistake for the city. The myth that, well, you're just talking about build it and they will come, they're already coming. What we want to do is accelerate the completion of the enrichment of that viaduct area. Emerge 2040, use that specific area as an example for a great way to initiate industrial regeneration of Erie. And from our standpoint, it's already happening. We just want to keep it going, and let's make a nice gesture to those companies, McGinnis Rolled Rings, Accuride, Liberty Iron and Metal, McCreary Roofing. Let's throw some money in alongside them and say, hey, you know, we respect your investment, we're going to help. The maintenance myth that, well, geez, once we fix it, we don't have money to maintain it. Well, once you fix it, the maintenance costs are negligible for at least a couple decades. The maintenance that would be required, a majority of it can be done by volunteer help through the not-for-profit partnership, just like they do at LEAF. So the whole maintenance thing is another myth that we've debunked repeatedly. Another issue that came up was PennDOT promised to have their bridge expert come and walk it and give an opinion, and then later they retracted that and said, well, you know, we had him look at pictures and the data from back in 2012, so we think he's had enough of an opinion already, and he said we should probably go and demolish it. Well, in all honesty, I think we all know really why he didn't come up here. The budget impasse in Harrisburg has shut down all travel for state employees. And I think they kind of built a story around that instead of facing what really made that not happen. And then finally, I'd like to say that these 2 years that we've been at it, what's nice to see is overall the city is learning about the embedded value of our assets that were created by those that came before us. And throwing them away both diminishes the value of all those efforts they made, and it also has us failing as stewards. So instead of throwing it away, let's use it to move Erie forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Austin, 1262 West 9th. I'm glad to be here tonight. I really want to honor our councilwoman who's leaving us, and we will always appreciate what you've been doing, and we're very much, we're very glad of your service. Thank you so much. I want to also comment that I know that every single one of you who are serving are doing so out of a love for the city and a concern about the constituents and all the residents here. I know that all of you care about the children in the city, and I know specific examples. I've seen Councilman Curtis Jones many times out in front of Strong Vincent High School with the blue coats. I learned all about Mel Witherspoon's work, Councilman Witherspoon, his work with creating the basketball court support spoons, and you were honored for that recently. And of course, I'm familiar with the proposal actually that both Brennan and Horan Kunso put forward, I guess over a year ago now, stating that the demolition of the viaduct must be delayed until full completion of the Buffalo Road interchange. And I would ask that you push and honor that and insist that that happens. I also want to just turn to the many people here tonight who've come and they're wearing red, many people to symbolically say, please stop this demolition. And I would ask that the people here today who are in favor of keeping the bridge, please raise your hand. Many of these people are not choosing to speak, but they're signaling their support here. I want to thank all of you who have come out tonight and speak as well. And I just want to end with the idea that we are a community that cares for our children, and that we are unfortunately a community without a city planner to guide the plans for the city. And the reason that we're in this trouble tonight is because we did not have anyone guiding us. Our mayor is a chemist and an attorney and a good-hearted person who cares about the city, who's watching the pocketbook. And in his planning for the city, he hired 5 traffic engineers who did a great job in figuring out what to do with the traffic, but they didn't figure out what to do with our children and other pedestrians. And so it's not that anyone's bad here, it's that they've gotten some bad advice. We've brought in 2 different experts. For many of you heard about Dr. Mindy Thompson-Fullilove, and then also the mayor of Milwaukee, John Norquist. Both of these are experts. They both said the same thing: the viaduct should be saved. We tried to get him in to visit with the mayor. It didn't work out. But we're hoping that the outpouring here from the support of the community, and also the fact that these other experts are encouraging a delay or encouraging not to have it demolished, but let's at least delay and really take a look instead of speeding up the process of demolition. Thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Next citizen, you heard?
Yes. You'll be happy that Christopher Conrad, 926 West Plaza Drive, that's my business address. I am not an Erie resident, Erie City resident, nor is my business in Erie, so it's odd that I'm here speaking on behalf of a city asset. I am also, I believe, second to the last here. Yes.
Make sure you're speaking to the microphone. It's hard to hear.
Second to the last, so that should be of some solace to you after hearing everything here tonight. I don't want to talk about emotions because I wasn't born in Erie. I wasn't raised in Erie. I've only lived here since 2008, and I'm one of those nasty West Siders, as they say. Working on a little project you may have heard of, West Erie Plaza, a little redevelopment project over there. So I'd like to come to you to speak with a bit of authority on development, revitalization, particularly revitalization in the Erie market itself. We've had a tremendous amount of success in turning that area around. I'd like to see something like that happen, not only in Erie City, but in particular East Erie, because that's where it's needed. The viaduct, we're looking at this from an emotional standpoint, a lot of us. I'd like to take a look at it from a business standpoint, a little bit of risk management. LRK and PennDOT both have spoken to the liability that the bridge poses and the lack of feasibility, as our mayor has stated, that we could actually reestablish this as a vital passageway. And perhaps as a vehicular passageway, that may be correct, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is a passageway exclusively for pedestrian use. Pedestrians weigh a little bit less than vehicles. I think that's easy to say, right? The LRK study did not discuss, as you know, exclusive use as a pedestrian passageway. Every single dollar amount that we've gone off of, everything that we're looking at, every estimate that we go by is moot. None of these matter if we're talking about a pedestrian exclusive passageway. $10 million, $5 million, $2.4 million, none of this matters. If we're talking about saving this asset as a exclusive pedestrian passageway, the costs go down tremendously. I've taken a look at this, reviewed it from a professional standpoint. I actually see potential. I see a great amount of potential because this is placemaking. It's not placemaking because a county official appointed a place and said, please make this. It's placemaking because of this. Because of all the artists that have come over and donated their time, professional artists, to begin painting murals all along the exterior of the viaduct. They didn't have to. Some of them live in Erie, some of them don't. But the community has sort of gathered around this particular place. We now have a place, and we need a little bit of support from the council. We need a little bit of support from the administration to go ahead and take a look at this from a slightly different aspect than what LRK has already done. We have incomplete data, incomplete information. With incomplete information, it is absolutely, completely impossible to make an informed decision. I do believe that we need to have a little bit further study. We need to look at this bridge as the vital passageway that it is, but not from the standpoint of passageway for vehicles, the passageway for the people of Erie. I also believe, from a business standpoint, that this, as a placemaking project, could serve Erie in its revitalization efforts, which there are not a ton of other than on the Bayfront right now. So being young, being industrious, being a developer, and actually having the capital and the wherewithal and desire to invest into projects in Erie County, sell me. I'm ready. There are plenty of properties around. There's plenty of blight around that area, industrial blight. I would absolutely love to get involved, but what we're going to need is a little bit of help from City Council to take a look at things and create, maybe a tax increment financing program for the district around the viaduct. Something that will reinvigorate growth and invite others as myself to come in and take a look at development on the east side. I don't believe we have enough information at this point to tear the bridge down. I'd love to speak with anyone here if they think that is the case. So my backing is to keep looking just a little bit longer. Let's take a study into pedestrian exclusive uses and let's go from there before we make a decision to tear down something that people actually love. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
My name is Abdullah Washington, 327 East 7th Street. I'm a scoutmaster in Erie downtown. We have the first inner city pack in a long time in Erie, and I've got real small kids. My son's 7, and when you have a kid, it's like you're the strongest man in the world. They don't know any better, right? Their mom's the most beautiful woman in the world. They don't know any better. They don't know any different at all. That's what they know. They know that love. Erie has a lot of problems. We don't have the money we'd like to have. Our kids don't know that. Some of my new kids, I was telling them about the article I was writing about the bridge over the summer, and they lit up and they were excited because they use the bridge. These little boys, they think it's the greatest thing in the world that an adult would care about something that they use every day. I'm not going to say that they don't know that they're poor. I didn't have a whole lot when I was growing up either. And you get reminders. But as a scoutmaster, it's my job to take them places like City Council and the courthouses and whatnot, and bring police officers in to talk to them and make them see that they're important. That all these people out here who doubt them and tell them that they won't be anything are wrong. That you guys think they're important. Don't give them one more reason to think that they're not important. Give them the opportunity to believe that they can be what I'm trying to show them they can be. Don't tear down the bridge.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? One final request. Any other citizens to be heard? You only get one chance to speak. I'm sorry. We'd love to give you a chance, but then we have to do it for everybody. So thank you. Thank you. One last time. Is there any other citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we will continue the rest of the meeting. Ms. Roby?
Okay. The ordinance for final passage, file ordinance 35-2015 and ordinance 36-2015. The budget ordinances will be considered at the recessed meeting. That'll take us into new business.
Thank you.
Number one from new business is
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Make a motion to pass the remainder of the agenda. I'm losing my words today.
Is there
the balance? Move the balance of the agenda. Thank you. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. President.
Are there any separations? I do have one. Would be the item number one on the new business agenda. I'm going to separate that out from the balance. Are there any other separations? Seeing none, if we could vote on the balance of the agenda.
moving the balance of the agenda, Mrs. Francunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. Resolution number one is being pulled at the request of City Council.
Thank you.
That will take us to, we have a waive rules, Mr. President.
Okay.
So we'll vote on the waive rules. This is a late entry from the administration. Voting on the waive rules, Mrs. Francunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. Resolution sponsored by Mr. Mursky, seconded by Mr. Witherspoon, that the communication from the City Planning Commission recommending the request to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Erie, number 80-2005, sections 305.45, Article 6, and any other relevant provisions providing for the purposes, adding and amending defined terms, establishing certain general and specific standards relating to the location, placement, construction, and maintenance to tower-based wireless communication facilities and non-tower wireless communication facilities be approved, and be it further resolved that the city clerk is authorized and directed to advertise legal notice of a public hearing to be held before City Council on Wednesday, January 6, 2016 at approximately 9 a.m. in the Council Chambers, Municipal Building, 626 State Street, Erie, PA, regarding said request.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Mursky.
As the maker of the motion, I just want to explain to the audience and to the citizens what this is about. As telecommunications changes and cell phone technology advances, they've now developed these boxes. They're like booster boxes is the way they were explained to me, about the size of a mini refrigerator, maybe the size of a wine refrigerator. And under our current zoning, you can put them anywhere in the city right of way. So they could put it right in front of your house and it would be there. And what this ordinance does is it changes the regulations so that they have to go on the telephone pole and they can't just put them anywhere in the city. Mill Creek already did this, and this was one of the recommendations from the administration due to citizen complaints that outfits were starting to come into town and just put these boxes right in front of your house in the city right of way. They're unattractive to begin with, but it was legal. So we want to change the rules so that they have to go on the telephone pole away from people's property.
Thank you, Mr. Mursky. Any other discussion? Ms. Roby?
Roll call. Mrs. Rancunzo, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. And that'll take us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. Mr. Witherspoon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I simply want to thank Councilwoman Jessica Rancunzo for her extended services for 12 consecutive years. And she has done an outstanding job. And some of the committees I've served with her, I have learned quite a bit from her. And I hope I can pick up some of her tenacity and demonstrate some of her anger in a nice way. Nicer way, yeah. She does a fantastic job, and she's very knowledgeable of what we are all about up here. She will surely be missed, but she will only be a phone call away. Thank you very much, Jessica.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. Mr. Mursky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things to report from the Convention Center Authority. We do have a meeting tomorrow, but I did want to alert the public that to be on the lookout for public meetings in the near future on the development of the GAF property. Those will be coming up shortly. We also want to the Convention Center Authority is moving along still with their hotel and the parking garage. City Council was kept abreast of the progress on those, both those projects. And also we have the Bayhawks in town and the Otters in town. Both are doing very well, and the community continues to support them, as well as the Erie Philharmonic. My wife and I had the opportunity to go to their Christmas concert, sold-out show, and very impressed with the amount of talent in this community. And so that's that. And then from Public Works, thankfully from the Streets Department, we have good news. Last year's November gave way to this year's, warm November, and hopefully it continues because it's saving money on road salt and overtime. And so they had a good report for me this week. And finally, I just want to thank I was giving you a congresswoman. I was promoting you, Councilwoman Jessica Rancunzo. Maybe things to come, Jess. And Councilwoman Jessica Rancunzo, it was a pleasure to work with you and your wealth of knowledge, and I'm grateful for your service, and I wish you well in all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mursky. Mr. Kwiatkowski, I'm going to leave Jessica for last, if that's okay.
Real quick, I met with the Airport Authority today at their meeting. Things are progressing well. It's been a tough year for the airport, but they're confident that things will change next year and progress forward. The O&E Pension Fund recently had their meeting, and they continue to grow that fund, which is great news for the taxpayers and for everybody involved with that plan. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to Jessica for being a great asset to the water reserve account, which I've had the pleasure of working with her as controller and councilman, and her fine work with the pension plans in helping us transition to our new manager, and also with the COG, her work with the COG, and I know that they have a lot of confidence in her, and I'll be seeing her there as a delegate, but she was a real asset. We didn't always agree when I first met her, but she's definitely a voice of the
and she taught you.
It's good because Jessica's a hard worker. She states her mind, and she'll be a great asset to the community in her new position. So thank you, Jessica. Enjoy your retirement.
We'll be back in 2 years.
Semi-retirement.
Are you done, Ms. Kwiatkowski? Okay, just check. Yes, Mr. Winarski.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening. Actually, I want to thank all my fellow councilmen. Another fine year, all in all. It's never easy up here. Maybe some days it is, some evenings it is, but we do try to do the best we can. As well as we know, Jessica, 12 years she's done this. I think her and I agree to about 95% of the time. but it has been a pleasure working with her, and as well as my fellow council members. But from all of us, just want to wish you, everyone, Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winarski. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to bring up that I had the privilege of being asked to be a part of the delegation from Erie to go to Kansas City to hear more about and to be a part of the a violence reduction system and program that they've enacted in Kansas City that's had and shown some success over the last couple of years. So it was a great delegation. I mean, Erie represented in a significant way from many sectors: elected officials, police department, the chief and Officer Mitchell representing the police department, administration, education from this area, probation. I probably shouldn't have started naming groups, but there were 20 of us, and it was a powerful delegation. When Erie walked in the room, we represented well, and people were impressed by the combination and the compilation of people that were there just to even hear more about any investment made by our community to make sure that the right people, or some of the right people, were in the space to hear about this program and this project. So it was very informative, more to come, and how we utilize what we learned and tweak it for the Erie version, if that's something that's going to work in our community. And so I was honored to be a part of that, and thank everyone who was there. Really came with our hats on to learn and to be informed. Jessica Horan Kunso. When I was 29 years old when I first had my first meeting, and yeah, I'm almost your age. I was a little cocky kind of a guy, right? So I thought I knew a lot more than maybe I did, and didn't really like you very much. And I'll be blunt, because maybe that's my Sagittarius coming out. I apologize. I'm too curt. Not because I didn't. It's not that I didn't like you. I just didn't get you, because I was, like, God, she's fussing about everything. Oh my God, it's getting on my nerves. God, we should. And over time, I learned to appreciate that. Go to the budget session and you got the ruler out. And you're itemizing everything. I'm like, oh my God. But I learned a lot from you, and I appreciate every time you voted the way you did, whether I agree with you or not, because I know now that it wasn't obstructionist. It was what you felt like was the right thing to do. And so I went from not really liking you very much and not understanding you to kind of understanding you, and then respecting you even more. And today I really like you a lot, and I appreciate our friendship, because I work with a lot of people, but I don't really call them friend per se. I'm honored to call you friend, and you set a precedent. Whether it was the graffiti task force stuff years ago, or being a spokesperson for whatever was the right thing to do in relation to making sure that citizens' voice was heard. You've been a great example of that. So I've got a couple of years left, and I'll be here. Hopefully some people like me too in a couple of years. I don't know. I got a couple of years to blow that. But you've definitely been an example, and I really appreciate fighting for people. And and I'll end with this. I had not. Hey, Melvin Witherspoon, I'm almost done. I heard you. I got good ears. That bell working? I'm at 4:35. So
it's got 54 seconds.
Okay. So one of the greatest, and seriously, that I learned was the importance of fighting for people's in the community, the transparency. You know what I mean? And so I really respect that and really appreciate that. So thank you for that. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. If you don't celebrate anything, just love people, not just in this time of year, but every part of the year. And Happy New Year as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Kunsa, would you like to say your final report for us all? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. I just want to thank everybody for the kind words. Those of you who spoke at the microphone today, our good citizens of Erie, and our council members as well. I really appreciate your kind words today. And this job that I've done for 12 years has been really all-encompassing, and it's been a challenge for me, but it's been a joy. I feel like I've achieved a lot. I haven't achieved everything that I wanted to achieve, but a lot of initiatives and programs and ideas that I have been able to do have really meant a lot to me. Anything, I can't even think of everything, but anything from over 12 years, cost savings initiatives, skate parks being built, water reserve funds being invested properly so we can bring capital needs to the city, zoning changes, zoning rewrites, zoning hearing board expansion, lots of different things, garbage delinquency collection. I've tried to do some things in this job. I haven't just thought this was just a position. I haven't thought of this as just power or control, but how can I do things that are in the best interest of our city and our citizens? And I hope I've done that. I really appreciate that folks came out today, and while they came for their grassroots initiative and their great concern for our city, for the East Side, for the McBride Viaduct, this is how things should work in government. We should hear from our citizens, and we should be responsive to our citizens, and those efforts are what makes our community strong. So I thank you, and I want you to know throughout the years, everything has taken the public and the citizenry to push to get accomplished in our city. That isn't going to change. That isn't, just Erie, but we need you and we need your engagement, and we certainly appreciate it. And I will support you from that side now after I'm done here after the end of the year, and continue to support good initiatives, neighborhood watches, McBride Viaduct, different programs that are good for our community. So I do have some expectation of my colleagues, whether they like me or not. So when I'm gone here, I will hope that and expect that you will carry on the due diligence and the research and hold everybody accountable, ask questions, ask a lot of questions, question everything, especially those repository sales, because if I'm not here to ask what they're going to do with the property, you all better know what they're going to do with that property.
You have to designate who's going to take over.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So I know that Ms. Arrington's going to serve you well, and you all continue to serve, and I will be watching. But it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Erie, and I thank you for the trust you've given me and this great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kunsel. Let's continue. The Controller, Ms. Stankiewicz, any report today?
I don't have a report, but just want to wish everyone happy holidays and say that it's been a pleasure working with Mrs. Rand Kunso with the Water Reserve and on the Aggregate Board for a short period of time, and good luck in everything that you do, and it's been definitely a pleasure.
Great, thank you. Does the administration have a report today?
Just very quickly, Mayor Sin and I had the opportunity to tour the Goodrich House, which is the Hands veterans, the first phase of their veterans housing on Peach Street. 6 veterans will be housed in the Goodrich House, and I believe they have 25 additional facilities that will be opening in the spring. So it's a great thing for Hands and a great thing for our community, and certainly for the veterans. So if you haven't had an opportunity to stop by, I'm certain that Chuck Scalise and our friends at Hands will open the doors to anyone who would like that opportunity to see it. The city did lose 2 great leaders. I attended 2 funerals this past week that were very hard, personally and professionally. Please keep the Johnson and the Fatiga families in your thoughts and prayers over this holiday season. We had Downtown Delights last Friday the 4th, so our first official event in the multipurpose pavilion. I think everyone is enjoying the lights in the park, and we'll certainly be able to see them when we leave this evening. And just very quickly, Jessica, thank you for your service to the citizens of Erie. It's been a pleasure working for you. I don't think people realize the time, effort, and energy that it takes to put into the work that we all do. So thank you, and we wish you the best of luck. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, Ms.
I
Witherspoon.
just have, thank you, Mr. Jones. Just a question to administration that was asked of me yesterday by two separate individuals. They want to know why Santa is locked up behind bars.
He's in a holding cell, I believe, until the 24th.
Okay. I have something to tell them. I don't know why.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. I have a couple items I wanted to mention. I attended the Erie Area Council for Governments retreat this past week, of which Ms. Kunso directed as the COG leader. A lot of the good discussion there. I mean, I've always been in kind of knowing what's going on there and trying to have them continue to do more. But we learned about the mission, we learned about the vision and the direction of where they're going in the future. I know it's going to get stronger and stronger as they work hard to be more inclusive and to possibly do more programs. But I definitely support their efforts, and I look forward to continuing to work with Jessica as she works with this program to make it even stronger and stronger. Also want to thank everyone who came out for the McBride Viaduct discussion today. A lot of good points made. I just thank you for your attention to the city. Thank you for caring for the city. Also, I wanted to address the council budget. I appreciate the opportunity to make a proposal for reallocation tomorrow evening. And I asked for this, and I appreciate council for giving me the opportunity to do this tomorrow evening to be able to explain a possible allocation of funds to another account. So we will continue tomorrow this meeting at 7:30. Also, lastly, I want to thank Jessica. As I mentioned earlier, I think everyone on council kind of has something special they bring to the table. Some experience or just something that they bring, something really special. But I think the thing that she brings most to council is just caring for the city, her dedication, and really want to make things better. So I really appreciate that most, and I think I've learned a lot from her, and I'm sure we'll be in communication to ask questions and continue to try to do what we can to make our city a better place. And lastly, I want to say happy holidays to everybody, and you'll have a happy New Year if we don't see you soon. And today we are going to we're not adjourning the meeting. We'll be recessing the meeting to pick it up tomorrow at 7:30 to discuss the budget. Thank you.
City Council recesses at 9:39 p.m. Mrs. Rankunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Brennan.
I just wish there was a